Hi, I'm Don Rothrock, and this is my Ericsson Living analysis. Ericsson Living is a developer of elderly communities all across the United States. There are 20 separate communities across the United States, most of them being along the East Coast. There is one in Colorado, our local Ericsson Living, which is called Windcrest, and it is the furthest west campus that they have currently. Inside of all 20 of the separate communities, there are 14 different departments: human resources, security, and EMS, executive, general services, grounds, maintenance, dining, housekeeping, marketing and sales, custom interiors, information technology, concierge, finance, and fitness. These This company was started by Jamie Erickson. He started this company in a Catholic church in Baltimore, Maryland. Um, and currently, it has been passed down from Erickson to Erickson and is one of the branches, the one here located in Colorado, Windcrest, is currently being executive directed by Corey Erickson, his grandson. Diversity is key. Diversity is key in any community, in any organization. Diversity is something that Ericsson values very much. Each community here has a diversity, inclusion, and belonging council. They get together and they plan events and parades and marches and clubs for different diverse communities. They pride themselves in bringing in diverse candidates for new hires. They host parades and clubs, as I mentioned, just celebrating the different types of backgrounds. There are LGBTQ, there's military, there is Black Lives Matter communities. Like I mentioned, they're all along the East Coast and all the way over to Colorado. So there are a lot of different cultures that are involved inside of Erickson communities. There is a military club. There are classes to teach about the culture that are led by the residents at Ericsson. Um, these courses are available for employees and for the residents to attend to come and learn about different cultures, different backgrounds. And then Windcrest also, or Ericsson Living also supplies the team with all of their employees with diversity trainings through their online academy. It's just a part of the annual um, courses that they have to take to be an employee at Ericsson Living, and diversity is one of those courses. Where they go wrong, they put in a good effort to try and make sure that they have a diverse community, but most of the clubs and parades and all of the classes are taught by residents or hosted by residents. This causes an issue because the employees also have a lot to give. They have a lot to teach the residents and the other employees about. I mean, they're the ones coming from a lot of different backgrounds. They have a lot of different points of view. I think that if Ericsson were to try and expand on their diversity, they'd include their employees in that in those communities and in those clubs and parades. Diversity enhances creativity. It encourages the search for novel information and perspectives, leading to better decision making and problem solving. It's a very important part to any organization's success. Communication. Communication is something that I feel like a lot of organizations struggle with, and Ericsson is not excluded from that. They do have an open door policy with all of their managers, executive directors, all the executive team. They have an open door policy where if you do have an issue present itself, you can take that up to them and address it to them directly. I know that that can be kind of intimidating to a lot of employees, but it's nice to know that your executives and managers and bosses all care and want to help. Um, the primary form of communication inside of Ericsson would be email. They use Outlook, they're on a VPN, so it's all connected inside the campus. If you need to reach out to somebody, the easiest way to do so is just through email. But they do also have messenger applications like Cisco Jabber, where if you're just trying to send something a little bit more simple than an email, that's a good route. Then they have Swift Reach. Swift Reach is something that, in case of an emergency, you can send out and it will go to residents and employees to communicate that message in a super short manner. The unique thing about Ericsson communities are they all have employee town halls. This is an opportunity for the employees to all get together with Corey Erickson, and kind of discuss the issues that they're seeing, and present them to him in a face-to-face setting with the help of friends and all other employees. Where they go wrong. Upper management does really well communicating with one another. They are able to pass around policies and discuss those policies with one another. But then the issue that presents itself is the upper management team is all on one page, but when they pass it down to lower levels like managers and just the general employees, there is oftentimes a lack of communication or some miscommunication, and that is something that stems from there being zero communication from corporate to the lower level employees. These policies that are being implemented, they just come directly from corporate, and there is no communication, no feedback that can be given to them. Another big piece that I feel like Ericsson struggles with in communication is that there's missed evaluations. Um, a lot of times there is not enough follow up with a manager to see if everyone has received their evaluations. I know that in the past, I personally have missed about 3 or 4 evaluations that I just never got the feedback from my manager letting me know how I was doing. So that makes it very difficult for me to know if I'm doing everything right or if there's something that I need to change. Organizations seek people who can follow instructions, accurately listen, provide useful feedback, get along with coworkers and customers, network and service provider information, work well in teams. Decision making. Managers at Ericsson have the ability to present new ideas or problems to the corporate team. But aside from that, managers are really the only ones who are allowed to make those presentations. Corporate then takes the ideas that were presented to them, they review them in their team, the decision gets made, and then they implement it through a guinea pig branch. This is the process that they always do. Ericsson is a, like I said, 20 community company organization, and they'll usually pick one. Generally, it will be Windcrest. Windcrest will take the new plan. They will test it out, see how it works. I guess Corey will pass on to the corporate team whether or not it's working, and then they'll go through and roll it out through the rest of the campuses. Where they go wrong, there is a lack of communication, as I mentioned before. When that decision is made, it gets sent down to the lower levels and they test it out. And then there is really no feedback from anybody aside from Corey Erickson. As with the other phases of decision making, clear communication ensures that your team commits and understands the plan. There's no follow up or feedback from lower level employees. We had an example where the security team used to be full of EMTs. The EMTs functioned as full EMTs with IV certifications and everything. But then there were some legality issues that came up because there were certain campuses around the US that did not have the EMT capability. They hired EMRs, which is one level below an EMT. And instead of lowering the expectation, or they lowered the expectation instead of raising it, they decided to take away the EMT skills from the people who have EMT certifications and lower them to EMRs. So they can now only practice as an EMR, which is quite a bit lower. And that caused a lot of frustration within the team, within the security team, because these people had gone to school for years to learn to be EMTs and now they can't practice what they've learned. Leadership. Like I've mentioned before, Corey Erickson has done a phenomenal job of keeping an open door. I mean, he always relates to his employees on a personal level. He comes out, gets to know them. He is absolutely the definition of a leader, not a follower. He gets his hands dirty when he needs to help out the team. Effective leaders earn the respect of those around him, not just by saying, but by doing. He does that every single day. He comes down and helps with small issues, and he goes and helps with big picture issues. He's super easy to communicate with, as is the rest of the executive team at Ericsson. Where they go wrong is they are far too forgiving. There is a lack of evaluation of the manager level, the mid tier. The structure goes executive level, mid tier, then the rest of the employees. The mid tier managers, most of the time, are seniority hires. They've been around with the company for a long time, and they promote from within. That's something that Ericsson prides themselves on. But sometimes they do that with employees that don't deserve promotion. Just an example of that is there's an employee named Jordan Davis. She was hired 10 years ago, has kind of skated by, got promoted as a manager now, and kind of takes on a narcissistic approach to her leading. Every issue that presents itself, she claims that she's been there and she figured it out, so you will too, instead of trying to help and train um, her team. And I think that that comes from a lack of training from the leaders. I believe that if there was a evaluation process, that if say Jordan didn't pass, then she would go and get some training on that and learn how to be a better leader. I believe that guidance is something that is really missing in the leadership team. They're just kind of managing the way they think they should, and that is not perceived very well from the lower level employees. In conclusion, I believe that Ericsson Living is a thriving company that is really starting to catch on. Like I said, they are expanding towards the West Coast. I think that they do a decent job of treating their employees fairly. I think that the things that we discussed as far as communication, decision making, and the implementation of getting their employees involved and letting their employees have a voice. I think if they can do those things, their company will continue to grow exponentially. Thanks.